keep Rock Galactics a much beloved game with a cult-like following that has to scream rock and stone in every chat that it can find, and King Gold to no end for reasons, mostly annoying management. But how did you get to this point of obsessive love for the game? Something I've noticed with people playing this game, more so than other games, is that they'll start playing, typically with friends, think it's kind of average, like, yeah, it's good, but like, you know, it's there. It's a game. It's fun, but not like too crazy. Take a pretty decent break, eventually come back, and then decide it's like the best thing ever. I've seen several YouTubers talk about this phenomenon and how they experience the same thing. I've seen other friends go through the same thing. I've talked to other players that have done the same thing. And myself, I've also done this. I started out playing with friends. I thought it was fun, but I never picked it up outside of when I was playing with them. And then one day I decided to pick it up, and I was like, wow, this is really fun. This is actually really great. And then I kept playing, and now it's easily one of my favorite games, probably is my top favorite game. It's just really that solid. So in this video, I kind of want to discuss what pulls you back into this game, unlike other games, and why it's so common for people to play it again and think it's better than when they first started playing it. Now, when you first start playing the game, you have something like a honeymoon phase, I guess you could call it. It's like when you first get in, it's exciting, it's new, and you're with friends, and you're trying to just learn the game. And I think that's a good time in of itself. Like, I definitely enjoyed it very much playing with friends. I just thought outside of with friends, it was kind of average. And this comes to my first, I guess, major point on what draws people back, and that's playing without friends, which is kind of strange because it's a co-op game that I think is actually best played with friends. But to get the full experience, you need to play without friends at some point, which is kind of counterintuitive. And I think some of the reasons for that is, one, you kind of miss the game itself when you're playing with people. You're more worried about, you know, having a good time with friends. I mean, that sounds bad, but like, you're more worried about doing than that and like learning the ropes and stuff than actually like appreciating the game for what it is. It's just visually, honestly, it's pretty stunning. It's a very fun art style. It looks amazing. Everything is pretty unique in design. The score is actually really good. When some of these songs come on, it's just like, dang, it really gets you into the mood to kill some bugs. Just kind of look at the scenery even. That also, something that's kind of lost in you is how well I think you can coordinate with people. Like, obviously when you're playing with people, you're just talking to them, but when you play with randoms, you have to use the in-game communication tools, and then you just realize how intuitive it all is. I mean, just by pinging things, you can basically completely communicate everything you need to with different players. I mean, yeah, basically the ping tool is all you need. It's just like a point-and-click adventure, but somehow it works just stupidly well. And coordination is just really important in this game. I mean, that should be obvious, but when you play with randoms, I feel like it comes out even more than when you play with people you know. Another major and maybe one of the biggest issues I think I've seen other people go through is you don't challenge yourself. This is a game where you pick the difficulty. Most people pick the difficulty they're comfortable with completing, and you know, there's nothing wrong with that at a surface level, but it also gets stale really fast. If you know the outcome of a mission every time and it's not very challenging, then you're gonna get bored of it pretty quick. Because if the challenge is unexpected, things don't go the way you plan, you have to come up with things on the fly, it keeps it really exciting and engaging. But when you're playing on Hazard 3, let's say, all the time, you get very comfortable with it, and it's very easy to just do the mission and be done, and then it's like, well, that was pretty straightforward, and then it kind of gets boring. And so something I guess I would say, if you haven't come back and played again, we bump up that difficulty. If you have come back and played again, that's something I think that pulls people in, is that they tend to bump up the difficulty maybe when their friends aren't on or whatever. They're just like, you know, let's just bump it up, see what happens, and you get more engaged that way. I know that's what happened with me. I bumped it up to Hazard 4. We were playing on 3, I think, mostly. A little 4, and then I started playing on 4, and then I bumped that up even to 5, and 5 I really struggled on, but it was exciting and fun. And then it kept me really engaged. And then actually, I ended up coming back down to Hazard 4, and it was way easier. It's like, wow, I learned way faster playing on higher difficulties, even though it's challenging. That when you come back down, it's really pretty simple and easy. So even though you have virtually no chance of failure if you play where you're comfortable, you can push yourself a little bit more. You have a little more risk, but it makes it more exciting and fun. Something else you might run into is you don't have that much unlocked out the gate. I mean, yeah, you can buy some mods maybe for your weapons, but like outside of that, there's not too much going on. I mean, you get overclocks pretty quickly, but it takes a little bit of playing to get overclocks, especially like overclocks that you think are fun or entertaining. Because some of the like clean overclocks and stuff, they're actually really good. It's just at first they're not very exciting. You see Fat Boy or Hyper Prop. But honestly, once you play longer, you start to realize that some of the regular overclocks are actually really good and really fun to play with, even though they're not like necessarily as exciting in theory. And that's also because you start mixing up your mod slots a lot more. So that's something that comes in later. So if you play longer and you come back, you're more likely to enjoy that aspect of the game. Whereas at first, you don't have that much unlocked. You don't know how to use your weapons that well. You might not have all the weapons unlocked. You don't have overclocks. So they kind of can get stale quickly. And then also you tend to buy mod slots and you just stick with them. At least that's what I did. I bought like mod slots that I thought were the best, and then I didn't do anything with them afterwards. So you kind of end up like, oh, well, these are the ones I thought were the best at the time, so I just stuck with them. And then it turns out later, you're like, well, you can actually mix and match them a lot more, and really, you have a ton of options to change how you play the game. Another thing, a little different from weapon mods, is just game mods. The modding community is really great. There's so many visual and audio mods that are either just fun or funny or whatever. And then there's a ton of actual gameplay mods like custom difficulty and a lot of quality of life things that can really improve the experience. And typically when you first start playing the game, you're not going to mess with modding because, I mean, you don't just jump into a game and then mod it right away typically. I mean, maybe if your friends are doing that, but most likely not. And then you come back eventually, when you come back and play it, like, oh, well, I'll throw a few mods on, and then you're like, wow, this is kind of dope. And then you throw on a few more, and then you start getting down this rabbit hole, and it's like, wow, the mods are really good for this game, and they can really improve the experience or change the experience for the better. And that's something I think draws people back in after a bit. But anyways, these are some of the main reasons I find that draw people back to the game, even though the first playthrough might be subpar to what you might expect for such a huge following. Hopefully you enjoyed this content. I will hopefully be posting more content regularly. And if you have any thoughts on this specific topic, or maybe went through the similar process of thinking the game was okay and then ending up loving it, post your thoughts below. I'd love to see them. And until next time, have a good one.